How often do you go out with your friends? Actually, I go out with them all the time. We often hang out in the cafe or a bar close to us and have a couple of drinks. Or sometimes we have a quick bite. For example, we go out for a burger or a pizza and just chit-chat and catch up. Tell me about your best friend at school. If you mean high school, that would be Glenn. He was a big guy, really generous, and he had a heart of gold. We hung out every weekend, and played sports or walked in the woods or drove around. We were as thick as thieves. On top of that, he was absolutely hilarious, and he never failed to make me laugh. How friendly are you with your neighbors? To be honest, not very close at all. Not very friendly at all. The reason is we live in a large block of flats, about 20 stories actually. I live on the 6th floor, and there are maybe 20 families that live there, or could be 15 families. I'm not sure. But I don't really talk to them, so I'm only on nodding terms with them. In the future, I'd like that to change, but I don't know how. Now, in this part, I'd like you to discuss a topic for 1 to 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say, and you can make some notes if you wish. Do you understand? Here's a paper and a pencil for making notes, and here is your topic. Please don't write anything on the booklet. I'd like you to describe a writer you would like to meet. Actually, this is a pretty easy question for me to answer, as I know exactly who I'd like to talk about. The writer is Mick Herron, and he's a novelist, or actually more of a spy novelist. He has written a series of books called Slough House, which are about spies that are not very good at their jobs. He might have written 10 or 11 books, I'm not sure. Anyway, they're put in a department instead of MI5, which is a kind of spy agency, and everyone wants to just forget about them. But somehow they get involved in major spy scandals, and they actually become the heroes. It's an absolutely wonderful read and a real page-turner. I'm always on the edge of my seat reading his books. In terms of what I already know about him, to be frank, I just know that he's fairly young and he's from the UK. But that's the extent of my knowledge. The reason I would like to meet him is I love his writing, and I would like to know where he gets his ideas from, and I'd like to know about his spy background. So yeah, meeting him would be on my bucket list to do before I die. To be honest, I first learned about him from reading The Guardian, and if I hadn't read that article about his series, I never would have picked up my first book of his. I'd never been into spy novels before, but now I can't put them down. What kind of books are most popular with children in your country? I'd have to say the classics are probably the most popular, such as Jack and the Beanstalk, Little Red Riding Hood, and so on. Oh, of course young people like to read comic books like Spider-Man, The Avengers, Batman, and things like that as well. I think they'll always be popular. Why do you think some children do not read books very often? I think it's down to the parents, basically. If parents read a lot of books, then the kids see that, copy that behavior, and then they start to read as well. On the other hand, if children don't see their parents with their noses buried in a book, then they never pick up that habit. How do you think children can be encouraged to read more? What a great question. Let me see. I think if you have books in the house, that would be a great first step. Just have them lying on the tables, on bookshelves, and so on. Another way you can encourage children to read more is to ask them what kinds of books they like. Then find similar books that may be a little bit challenging, with fewer pictures, hard words, and things like that. And then they'll push themselves to try to read them. Let's move on to reading for different purposes. Are there any occasions when reading at speed is a useful skill to have? Well, I've never really thought about it before. Let me see. I suppose if you have a job such as a lawyer, then you might have to read a lot quite quickly. For example, if you have a difficult case and you need to find out the best answer for your client, you may need to do a little speed reading. I suppose it would be the same for doctors, but I'm not sure. Are there any jobs where people need to read a lot? As I've just mentioned, lawyer and doctor are definitely jobs where you need to get through a lot of different books. I guess teachers need to do that as well, and possibly publishers? Yes, definitely publishers. They have to read a lot, especially first drafts of books. Do you think that reading novels is more interesting than reading factual books? Not necessarily. Some people say that truth is stranger than fiction, and I think that's generally true. A lot of biographies of famous people are very interesting reads. In addition, I really love history, and it was my major at university, so I love reading about events from the past. Having said that, I do like to pick up a trashy novel now and again.